Hello
Hello,
there,
hello.
mate. How are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm a little better now. It was really rough. It was really strong. Unfortunately, the guy passed away. Um,
Well,
um,
yeah, what
I
can
kn-
you do?
I know it wasn't my fault, but if it feels like it was, sometimes I don't know. I keep on doing therapy. Um, I had already been doing therapy. But anyways, it's just a motorbike, a biker who did not respect the crossing,
Right.
the traffic lights. Then I went on green, and then the biker came straight to my car, and it was really rough. Now I'm doing a little physiotherapy, but my foot is almost fine because I broke my ankle. It's not that I
Okay.
broke; it was like a bad torsion on my
Yeah,
ankle.
sure, sure, sure.
And I had a little some cuts here as well, but other than that, everything was fine. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I received your
it's
email.
actually,
Thank you very much. I was about to answer it right now, but it's just that I am traveling. I I I I I quit everything for a while. I traveled. I got rid of communications and social media and stuff, and just spent like 3 weeks trying to breathe. Um, and that's it, I guess.
yeah,
It's really
the,
horrible.
I mean, I've never been in a situation like that personally, but I've seen situations like that, before. And yeah, it's not, even if it's clear, what happens, everyone is affected, and sometimes it can be a very serious, yeah, it can affect someone seriously. Your
Exactly.
foot injury is typical, by the way. Your foot, if someone sees something happen and they step on the brake as fast as they can, and yeah, you often hurt your foot. You often hurt your ankle, stuff like that. I assume that's what happened, but
That's true.
I remember years ago, someone, I was with my father in the car, and a boy on a bicycle didn't have any brakes.
Uh-huh.
It was the same thing, And so what happened was the choice was either to move, and the guy
Yeah,
would probably go through the windshield, or just stay put and he'd probably bounce off a piece of metal, and chances are he might be okay.
that's true.
Fortunately, it was only an arm or something like that. It's a sad thing. It's a sad thing for everybody, and you know,
Uh,
I, you know, I just wanted you to know I was a bit late contacting you, but I just wanted you to know that we
no,
were
no
thinking
worries, no
about you.
worries. I was also away for a while. I was also away for a while. Um, Hello, Doc. Oh, the light, the sun.
Yeah, you see the light.
I am in my
Wow.
in a friend's house here in Rio, and he is a psychologist in social media, content creator stuff. So I have all the apparatus here. I have like this big light. It hurts my eyes, but I don't know how to turn it off. Let me see. Oh,
Ah,
look,
thanks for the mail.
nice. So I just sent you this mail that I got yesterday. I received
Yeah.
yesterday with the feedback from our work. We need to work that point by point. And then we already sent it again this year. I couldn't get hold still because after when you finish your PhD, when you finish your course at the Real State University, my former university, they give you 8 months. I didn't know that they give you 8 months of access to the email, to the institutional email address, and after that they cut you off. So I asked them for
Okay.
the files and for the content, and they say that they have to retrieve it because it's automatic from the Real Estate University. You lose your institutional login. So they are sending me, but it's still that one, that proposal was for Sage, simply Sage, was not for Sage ISA. Sage ISA is another thing.
Okay.
Okay. One thing was purely Sage. Sage, I believe they are in New York or Chicago or something like this. And the Sage slash ISA is another thing. So
Oh,
the
this
what
is stage
those
ISA and a stage.
those were two different proposals. The one that they said that it was really, really good and they asked for the journal, it was only Sage, simply Sage. No relation
Okay.
whatsoever to ISA, which is my former email. This one that I sent yesterday
Okay.
is the new proposal. Is the proposal to
Now your
Sage
pros.
slash ISA. This one that I sent you
Okay.
now. Okay, is the second proposal.
Boy.
If you remember, we talked about Cambridge Scholar. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Yes, but I can't hear you. Just a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. Could you say something, please?
Me or Dick?
Hello.
Oh, now yes. Now
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Now yes. Good, good, good. Because as I'm using my friend's computer, it's very hard here too. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Now, how do I get out of here? Here. I don't know how to use a Mac. Very good. Um,
So we
well,
have
I have
so we
just
have two
what?
sorry. So we have two sage, but it's different kind of sages.
Exactly. Exactly. We have two proposals for Sage, and they're different from one another. I'd rather publish by ISA because
Yeah.
it's our public. Sage is too open. And according to this email that I got yesterday, I think they are into it, but they just want to work on the project. As you know, I sent the project very short, a very short project, because we're missing some chapters. We're missing content, and so this was mainly about that, you know. And they also asked about the revision. If you want, we can go point by point. I have already written to Yangzom, the the presenter for today. I just wrote an email, but I don't know what's.
When is he coming? When do we begin?
Yes, that's what I want to know. Otherwise,
Because I thought we begin at 3 o'clock, so it was like
yes, yes, it's now. It's now. I have just written to the presenter,
yeah.
Yangzom, to know. But in the meantime, let's make it a board meeting.
Why not?
Let's enjoy the
I'm still
moment.
at the moment at writing on the chapter, so it will be in the beginning of somehow December. But you will get it this year, so
No
we
worries,
can.
no worries,
Yeah.
no worries. It's 38 degrees Celsius here in Rio de Janeiro. It's really, really hot, and it's not even summer. We are still, we're still in spring, and it's
You will
38
burn in
degrees.
the summertime, though.
Yeah, yeah. And there is no. Let me just turn on the fan, please. Just a moment.
How are you, Andrew?
Oh, I'm all right. It's a busy week. Today is the yes. I mean, this week is the the American U.S. Thanksgiving holiday, right?
Oh,
And
that's right. Yeah.
It was yesterday.
yeah, it was yesterday. And daughter number one lives in Norway. And one thing, and she's lived here a good long time. And one of the things she likes to do, just to sort of maintain a certain identity, if you could understand, is she celebrates, the Thanksgiving holiday, right? And so,
Okay.
and it's not just the family she invites, she invites friends, colleagues. I had a dinner last night with something around 20 people. And
Nice.
yeah, and so I'm sitting in one of her daughter's bedrooms. I hope you don't see the things she has on the wall. You might ask questions about me if you did. But
No worries.
Yeah. So anyway, Norway. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah. I mean, there's a frost. I guess it must be freezing outside, but barely, right? Yesterday was a bright blue sunny day, not a cloud in the sky. And today is anything but bright blue and sunny. But there's no snow, there's no rain. There's nothing to speak of. It all looks, it's perfectly what you expect for this time of the year if there's no snow.
Oh,
yeah.
but come on, it's still
You know,
Norway.
it's
It must
getting
be
colder also.
beautiful.
We have now around 0 degree, a little bit 0, -2 to 5, +5. We had
Yeah,
last week's 10 degree
yeah,
some
Nice.
yeah.
days ago. There before we had snow a little
Let's
bit,
go to the beach.
2 days, and now
Just
it's getting
about.
warmer.
Just about. The We had the winter. Winter came for one day, but there was wind about 20 meters a second. The day started. I guess it was Wednesday. Day started off last week. Blue,
Yeah,
sunny, bright. And by sometime in the middle of the afternoon, it was snowing and quite windy. Quite windy. 20 meters a second is enough to blow you around.
yeah.
And and so I don't know how much snow actually came down. It might have been 15 or 20 centimeters. It might have been,
Wow.
10 or 12 or 15 centimeters, but it was everywhere. It was everywhere because of the wind. In some places, you could almost see the ground, but in other places, you had, piles that were, 30 or 35 centimeters high, right? And it's because it started snowing when it was above zero, everything came down on top of a layer of ice, and so it was
Yeah,
but it was like that for a day. And then over the weekend, I guess it was Friday, the temperature went up to 10 degrees. It started raining and it was all gone just like that.
I understand. I understand. Those countries up north, they are wild. They're crazy
But,
wild.
you never know, really, you really never know I mean, you're far enough north up here that if the wind blows in the wrong direction, you can have some strange weather, right? If the wind blows in another direction, on Christmas, it could be bright and sunny or it could be minus 25,
So it really
depending
depends
on
on
what.
how it blows.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, yeah, I know that. It all depends on how it does it or how it happens. Um, but it's really interesting. Well, whenever you want to feel some heat, to go to the beach and just sweat like a pig, please come. My house is yours.
Hey, thank you, thank you.
You're more
I've
than
never
we
been
will
welcome.
do
to.
this when we get the funding for it.
Talking about funding, Cecilia replied to my email. There is no traveling fund. There's no traveling aid. There is only registration
What?
aid. Um, the traveling fund, it's up to each research committee to use its own fund upon the board's approval, but there is no traveling aid from ISA specific.
Yeah, yeah,
I will
But
try.
how much is the fund for
registration.
the the registration? Because
Uh,
registration is also very expensive
No, no, no.
normally.
The registration I can get it. The registration it's I can apply and I can get it. No problem. I will do it. I have to do it. But about the traveling expenses, I'll see if the university here can help me a bit just because I am in Sylvia's panel talking about the university. So I'll try to use this card so the university can fund my trip
Yeah.
back and forth.
I think traveling expenses last year were a bit of an exception, because of the,
Okay.
yeah,
So she says that every research committee, every RC has an amount in its own fund, and it's up to the RC to use it, however, the way it likes it. Um, if you remember, we talked about using this fund to take some author for an author meet and greet for author meet the
Yeah.
the audience,
yeah.
but we didn't have any author to send. Actually, I don't know how much we do have in this fund. I don't know how much we
It's
have.
a bit more than 300 euro, so it's not much, you know. And it's tied exclusively, unless you have some other source of income, right? It comes from registrations, ISA registrations for the members of the committee, right? And depending on how many people are registered, there's a percentage that goes
Yes, to the
to
RC.
a given committee, right? And so
Yes.
it there used to be a bit more. I mean, like 10 or 15 years ago, I can remember that there was a bit more, but it was it's been 4,000, 5,000 crowns. It's in an account in Swedish crowns because it's easier to maintain, right? The
Yeah.
When there was some years ago. Oh, maybe Dirk, you must remember the the yeah. What was her first name? I mean Nikolov, right? What was her first name? It was a Russian woman living in France, right? Okay, and
Veronica. Wasn't Verena
yeah,
Veronica something like this?
uh, Vera Nikolov,
Vera.
Vera
I
Nikolov.
have
It
to see her
wasn't even
sometimes on
Nikolov
Facebook.
Live. Yeah. It wasn't
No.
even Nikolov. It was Nikolova. It was Nikolov Vera, and she's no longer in scholarly organization because she got a job in the French bureaucracy, I guess, the French state. But anyway, so she was the treasurer, and the things that she had to go through to, try to open an account in France was you have to have registered, companies and clarified tax status, and it was not practical. Where I could just simply, go to the bank and say, I'm going to hold this money in my name for these people. They say, okay, and so and technically it's in a private account, but it's set aside for this purpose, and it was easier to manage, but it was never in my recollection, the last 10 or 15 years, it's never been more than about 4,000 crowns and some change, which is not
Yeah.
much.
But the
Okay.
important point is that we get Umberto the possibility to come to Rabat.
Yeah,
That is a
it
But
is an important
we'll
thing to do. Yeah.
manage. We'll manage. No worries. I always manage.
I think
Um,
we spent some money last year to pay for a membership fee or something of the sort for a couple of graduate students who presented with
Mhm.
us, and at least one or two of them eventually joined, which is why it's down a bit from what it was, but it's never was much. It's over 3,000 crowns, whether it's 31 or 33, I can't remember. I'd have to check. So
um, yes, we are going to look into that. I don't think we're going to have a seminar today. I just wish
Doesn't look
Vesa,
like it.
yeah, I just wish Vesela were here.
Vessel was
Um,
working this afternoon. She was lecturing. She had to. She came with me for a couple of
no, that's
days,
because I miss her.
but she had to go back. She
No,
was teaching at a. She was lecturing yesterday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, and today she had lectures after 12. So I'm not quite sure where she is. But anyway, she's in Sweden. I'm here in Norway. So
Excellent. One of
but
the yes,
when I right understand, we have three proposals, two and a half proposals. We have this Sage SSIS, and we have this normal Sage, the other
yes.
Sage, and we have talked about
If you remember the Cambridge scholar,
genau Scambridge scholars.
yes, but they are not accepting manuscripts no more. They open this window, this time window, where they accept lots of publications for the coming 3, 4 years. And then on the following year or 2 years after that, they open once again. So now they're closed.
But
This
I
is
think Sage
why.
is wonderful.
Yes. Both are
Also,
wonderful, but I'd rather publish it by ISA. This is why the regular Sage accepted were more accepting. How can I say? Um, they saw it better, the material, because they didn't have the precise sociological knowledge. This is why the SAGE slash ISA, the SSIS, this is why they are more critical about the project that we sent. But I believe that this this critique is worthwhile. I believe this is good. And what they brought really, what they wrote really makes sense. Just because we just put the works there, those who wanted to publish, but she says that there's not much innovation. It's most of them are revisions,
Yeah,
you
reviews.
know,
Said, yeah.
exactly, literature reviews. And she also said that it's too small, the content. And she said that preferably we can give a title, not series, volume one, but we can give it a title, you know. And from this title, and in 2 years from now, we can publish another one, you know and this made sense to her. If you read the email, you will see it
I
better
read it.
better than explain. I sent you the email, Andrew, to you
Yeah.
and to Vesela.
So we go for the SSIS,
Yes.
as I hear you. You would like to. But can we do this in this year?
In this year, I think it's really difficult because
Also, or
we are
next year?
already in December. Yes,
Or
but
next year?
yes, next year, yes. Next year, yes.
Good.
This is
Also,
this
also that is
this
going
is
to be
all I will be
published next
working
year.
on.
But also that is published next year, I guess. That is the question.
I believe so. I believe so. They publish
Okay, good.
fast. They publish fast.
Because
Once
when they
it's all
say,
set, they publish fast.
yeah, because when they say it's more or less review articles. So
We have new work coming. For example,
yeah,
the previous work that was presented
yeah,
about mass shooting. This is innovative. This is not a
Yeah.
review. This is a proper work. And I think it works. I was excited about today's do-it-yourself and pragmatics in fashion, but the person couldn't care less. So I believe that we have
yeah.
more works coming. And I don't know, I don't see we have there. Let me see how many chapters we have here.
Just
Yeah,
look
I
at the
don't have it with
list.
me. It's on my table at home.
We
This is the you're talking about the letter from Joy Zhang.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the
And
title could be the title could be talking alienation, double point, and then we have another title. So we
Yeah.
make an overall title, but first it's also talking alienation and then the title. That would be interesting. So we can have always talking alienation and then a subtitle and a title.
yeah,
If I remember correctly, I think we are going we need to hunt these chapters. Because the first point she says is about coherence, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when I think coherence, I think that we had this paper from Sunjings. I believe it was about alienation in the concept of Zygmunt Bauman, if I remember correctly. And we had that other Uruguayan girl who never presented, and she had this alienation according to Rael Jaegui. And we have all the perspectives on theoretical perspectives. So I'm thinking about how creating, a coherent line between the chapters, because this is what she asks.
yeah, but this is when we have all titles, we can sit together and say maybe we have two, three, let's say categories, and then see how we can relate these categories together.
Brilliant,
And that's it.
brilliant,
So
brilliant.
this normally is what you do with handbooks. So,
did
but
you
this is
go
when we
back?
have all. Andrew?
Okay, go ahead.
No, no, Andrew.
I was just going to say the issue of coherence is kind of an odd, kind of an odd issue. Um, it could be there doesn't have to be a real strong connection, uh, between the contributions as there would be between book chapters, say, right? Because it could be, recent research by members of this committee or colleagues or something of the sort on the topic of alienation, right? The I ran into something similar with symbolic interaction people. There's a study for the small study of symbolic interaction, which is American because it's American. They think it's universal and
Yes.
international. But there's also a group of European people doing, there have been a series of European meetings, members of SSI, the same, right? But and somebody, there's a University of Pisa hosted a number of these activities, and they decided that they wanted a volume to show how in Europe people approached symbolic interaction, you know, and so it's a large collection, 14, 15 articles, written from many different points of view. The thing that brings it together is that there were European scholars working on symbolic interaction.
Yeah.
It doesn't read like a book; it reads like a collection of diverse articles, and so I would think that that's a way to proceed. I think that's a legitimate way to proceed. This is a volume on the issue of alienation by scholars from many different perspectives. The issue of coherence is the fact that it's talking alienation, right? That it's been in seminars devoted to issues related to alienation, right? Every seminar session has been different, right, because of the nature of the topic. So I don't think this issue of coherence is. I don't think it's. I don't think it's a significant issue. It's not a book. It's not a. It's not a monograph, right? It's not a. It's a collection of articles on interrelated themes and topics. So that was the.
When
Uh,
I see it right, he's also saying that blah 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 blah. It's perhaps notable that the first volume does not yet have a title, and that the content appears somewhat random. Means also when we have a title that maybe have kind of relation like then it's not random anymore. So as you say, we just have to find the common denominator, and it doesn't matter what it is. Does also when it's not the content, we just have to find a common denominator. We call it, and that maybe it's the title also, maybe included in the title, and then it's not random anymore.
yeah, exactly. You're muted.
But we
Yeah,
cannot
there
do
you go.
that without the chapters.
No, we need all the chapters. Sure, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And it was a slap on the face when she says, I suggest that the editors submit a proposal only when they are ready. But I had to send that because I needed the reviews. I needed the feedback because
Yeah.
we have this project ready for a long time.
I think it was good. It's a good thing.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I think it's
Um,
good.
I'm going to assign the dates of the seminars that the collection draws, like when each work was presented. I have it here.
Well, I
Um,
haven't.
the topic of alienation, the author's inability to connect to and compare with existing publications underlines the fact that this is a highly specialized area with a small audience. Actually, it isn't. It's just because I was the number 5. I was just scared to relate, but now we're going to do it to relate it to other alienation perspectives from other fields like psychology, anthropology, economics, geography, um, immigration studies. aliens. So I'm going to put everything, because it's not that we cannot relate to other bibliography. We just wanted to stick to the sociological aspect of it. And in sociology, there is only, I believe, two or three books that talks specifically about alienation. One is Cambridge, the Manual of Alienation, I guess. Another one is from Harvard Press, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember the authors. I just remember the press because they were like dictionaries, like
Yeah.
manuals on alienation. And there is this few I found on Google. But of course, it's strictly sociological. If we combine psychology, geography, economics, then we're going to find a lot. No? And what else?
I have a proposal. Can we go from 1 to 5?
Yep,
Point 1 to 5? Make it maybe easier.
yep, beautiful. So first one is the
First one we have
coherence.
said we have to find a common denominator.
Okay,
Then you have it's titled Talking Alienation, and then we have this common denominator in the title somehow. But this we can
perfect.
think about what we do. As Andrew said, it don't has to be content-wise. It can also be something else. Um, Maybe we have to think about it.
Yes, just
But
like
it
he said
also
about
can
the
be
Europeans.
different perspectives on alienation, and also maybe also theoretical. When they say it's more reviews, then we also can theoretical reflections on also on so forth and so forth. So
Okay. I don't know, review update on the second part and the theoretical approaches on the
let's see,
first part of the book. I
normal
don't know.
length. How much do we have now? Words?
In length,
Yeah,
let me
we
check.
now because you're missing mine and Andrews, I guess.
Yeah.
Yours, Andrews, Veselas, and and this is it. But we also needed to work on the preface, we needed to work on the introduction, and we needed to
Right,
work at the conclusion,
right.
right? And we have split these three among the four of us,
Yes.
right? So we need to work on those as well. And I believe that each one is going to have like 20 pages around, 18 pages around.
Yeah, that's about seven, eight
Yes.
thousand words standard format.
Let me let me see if I can open here because I am on someone else's computer, but I guess
Normal links. However, the
uh,
proposal includes only 5 chapters by now, so it's have 8 chapters now then, because there are three
yes.
missing.
Let me see here. Oh, I have
And we have a couple of other people checking in now. Zella and
book project.
Adam.
Aqui tem, let me see. We do have 50,000. We are in half of it.
But there come 3 chapters more.
Yes, 3 chapters more, plus introduction, prologue, and conclusion.
Each chapter might be enough if the character of them is if they're good chapters, right? Um, you know, probably it wouldn't. It'd probably be a good idea to have a couple of more chapters if we could. 10 is
Yes,
you know,
yes,
10 of about 10,000 words a piece, 8,000 words a piece. You'd have a substantial volume given the other material that would be added.
beautiful. Hello, Jaolun. Hello, Ladan. Um, I have
I
to inform you that our presenter did not show up. So we're having a conversation in the RC36 meeting. We're enjoying this moment.
Yes, hello. I thought you were having such a good conversation. I didn't want to break you up.
We're
Hello,
talking
Mayo.
about our book.
It's nice to see you guys. You look very different from before, and in a good way on basis. How are
Me,
you?
I guess it was the car accident.
How does it make you look good?
Then
Look
I
different
call
to
it
the
black
good?
humor.
Oh,
Oh
you're
my
surprisingly
God,
different.
that's a horrible joke.
No, that's a good one actually, but it's horrible on your side. So as long as you're happy with it.
No, 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 no. I'm fine. It's just
Um,
that it's really hot in here. And anyways, I
Yes.
I
when
have
we
to
when
wear
we come,
shirts for the meeting.
Well, anyway, it's very nice to see you guys. How are you, Dirk? How are you, Andrew?
Could be worse. I could be worse. I think I could be worse.
that's what I always say. Could be worse.
Optimistic, right?
Reasonably
That's
well.
Yeah.
the state of the mind, actually.
Yes. Yes, it's the
I'm sitting
mindset.
inside. I have enough food. Wonderful.
Exactly.
That's good.
That's
That's good.
all we could ask for nowadays.
Um,
Yes. Well, please continue your conversation. Don't let me interrupt you or anything. Sorry.
okay, so we have three more, and we have the intro, conclusion, and so forth. And we might
Yes.
also ask someone else if it's not enough to maybe contribute. So I think that is easily to see.
Beautiful.
Um,
Beautiful.
number three, it's unclear what date.
Yes,
It
those
has
ones
to
I'm
be.
going to assign. Yes.
Yeah, but I think, do we really have dates from everyone, or do we only have to say this was maybe the all the talks or whatever in the period of two, from the period two, and then we can also give the
I don't
whole
know.
picture or whatever.
I can assign each one of them because all of them were presented.
No,
Yours, but you have presented one day in the past. I'm going to assign that work to that.
okay,
Just is like this. At least the presenters have presented. It's not the precise work, but the presenters have presented. So this is what I'm going to work with.
Yeah, based on based related to based on the seminar presentation was made on developed
Yeah,
from a talk discussion on such and such a date in the seminar series.
exactly. Your work was
Um,
about aesthetics, Dirk. I don't
yeah,
know
I
if
don't
this
know to.
I don't know if this chapter is going to be about
yeah,
aesthetics, but come on,
It's about
it's
aesthetics.
so it's this yes, so it's the same. No worries.
It's about
We do
aesthetics.
have
It
the
is.
dates. So it's just like I believe it's going to be a footnote. You know, this work was presented on day, month, year on Talking Alienation Permanent Seminar. Period. Th-
Okay.
This will be it for each chapter.
Yep.
There
So number
I don't have a problem with that. Number four.
At least one sample chapter is advised to be submitted before being considered for a con, at least.
Very good. I didn't
Okay, but
expect
this, yeah,
this is easy.
yeah, yeah, fine,
This
fine.
is easy. Number
Five, the topic of alienation may speak to only a niche market. Despite the claimed interdisciplinary, its appeal for an interdisciplinary audience is unlikely. What? The author inability to connect to and compare with existing publication. Well, this comes normally in the introduction and so forth. I think it's not. I would comment this is all not true.
Exactly. No, this is what I was talking about. I avoided including psychology. I avoided including economics, geography, immigration studies, anthropology. But if we do so, we do have lots of work to connect to and to compare with. And so, I mean, I tried to stick to the sociological side of it because, yeah, come on, it's ISA. But now let's open it. to more audience. They want to sell. They don't want it to be sociological. They want to be marketable.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's on
but
us
it
to,
must.
yeah.
So this
It's,
one is okay. Yes?
I mean, that's not, I don't think it's altogether a fair statement to make. But I suppose we have to address it in some way. I'm not familiar with the articles, right? If as on point six here, most of the articles seem to be review articles. Well, we have to do something about that, right? Those, you know,
Yeah.
simply review articles are, uh, well, it was good enough for George Mead, but I guess it's not good enough for us, So,
That's true.
uh,
That's true.
yeah,
Um, number 6.
Moment, I just have to. Preface and introduction have number 5. There we can,
Yes.
to clarify this, I would
Let's
say.
make a hell of an introduction.
Yeah, in preface, we can also say a little bit about. So that's the authors claim novelty, but not of all chapters seem to be review articles.
That's the thing. And the only one that is not a review, I think, is mine, and mine is also a review, right? Yes. It's just Xiaolong's, who studied
Hey,
feminism.
yeah, I guess because he's doing having data. I think that's also the problem that it's not empirical data in it. And when it's
That's
not empirical data, they think it's everything that is theoretical work based on other theoretical work is a review article. So we have to make clear in the articles that what is the new point or what is the reflection on it, which is not a review but a new point coming out of it.
yes. Yes.
I would say. What do you think, Andrew?
yeah. I'm just thinking about this. I mean, if it's a review, it's there's always room for a review, but I mean, they can't be the basic articles of an anthology, right? If
Of
somebody
course.
wants to write a review of a certain body of literature, I mean, that could be part of it, but it can't be you know, and the journal
Everything.
often have three,
Okay.
four articles, two, three reviews, right? But there has to be something more substantial than simply literature reviews, right?
We can have like the first part original and the second part reviews, because reviews are also
Perhaps,
important. And then it's another way to make it more coherent,
yes.
to have a coherent line
Yeah.
between them.
The uh, the book being Western centric. I
But
don't like that.
this is by chance. It wasn't our choice, to make it Western
Yeah,
centric. Does this indicate a form of,
What do you,
alienation? Yes. Yes, it does.
yeah.
This is what we try to say, I, don't- I guess.
I
it
mean, if
also
it has
has to be, yeah, sorry.
Yes, Andrew?
oh, I mean, I was just talking over somebody else, I think. I just didn't say that, there's a contributor on a Chinese topic, a Chinese contributor, the Korean contributor. This is, let's say it's Western centric. I don't think it's altogether fair, right?
No, that's
The,
not.
Well, I have some Japanese stuff in it also, but Japanese aesthetics, but also together with European. So it's like mixed together.
Good, good.
Um, but it's a question. But we can also name it in the introduction or in the preface and say because I mean it's funny when you say this indicates this form of alienation. I mean that's funny.
you know, we don't need to
But
embarrass
yeah. I mean,
We
but
can
how we can address it?
we can quote this in our introduction.
Yeah, right.
It would be really interesting.
But we can address it, I guess. We can address and say, okay, these are, but it's a form of alienation and but as Andrew says, I mean, we have Japanese, Chinese, whatever people they're in. I mean, it's not.
It was just by
Ladan is also
chance.
there,
Yes, it was
so
just a chance, by chance. I mean, I don't know. We're going to work that on the text. The text is
yeah.
workable. We are going to work and address everything in the text. We have the power to make every text readable and to convey the message. So I truly believe in the power of our writing for these things, and those are the points that were brought in this email. Let's do like this. You all have access to the book project file. If not, let me just check here
And
your
yeah, yeah.
access. Let me just check here your access to the book. Yes, Angel Blasco. Oh, wait. No. Here is Angel Blasco Gmail. Let me change and put the other
Yeah,
one.
you have a, yeah, please.
Okay, this one. Dirk, this one. And Vesela, this one.
Okay.
Good, good.
Yeah, that looks reasonable.
Good. Um,
Okay, I just shared with
will
you.
you send the link? I know there it is.
Yes, I sent the link to the file on Google Docs, the project.
Can I copy this? I try something. Ah, it's working wonderful. Um,
All right.
Okay.
Okay, did you get to open it?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I just for Vessel.
You can make any changes you want.
But I make it so that everyone can see it maybe, or that someone is then integrating it at least, so that's not everyone is doing everything. Everyone's doing, and no one sees what is new and not new.
Every chapter has been grammarly revised. Okay, so far it all has been grammarly revised. And what else? And I just sent the authors back so they could make like the changes that I thought were
Okay.
interesting. And but yes, we need the other chapters so we can conclude and make the coherence line and make the introduction. Some of it I can start working, not today. We'll start working on Monday because today's already Friday and it's noon in Rio de Janeiro, so I'm going to get drunk after that. But well, that's all we have to do, right? 38 degrees, you drink beer until you pass out. So I will start working on enlarging the introduction and assigning the dates when those chapters were presented, and also to link with other bibliography, expanding and broadening the scope of alienation. And I guess this is pretty much this for now. Um, I'm going to write a letter to Cecilia to check on how much we got for fund, because it will also help. In Rabat, we need to have our dinner and our
Yeah.
come together party for our RC, you know. Um, so pretty much this, so we can start working on it. Yes?
Inquire, ask Cecilia if they're holding any funds for us, because it's associated with membership, right? And they don't automatically transfer it to an account, and you have to request, ask how
Yes.
much, and request to be sent to an account. So
Brilliant. Brilliant.
if you're going to
I'll
be talking to her, if you're going to be talking with her about anything else, ask her that question as well. She should know.
I'll ask her.
Since we are here and we are concluded the book chapter, the book project, we have to talk maybe also, we can talk also about Rabat, about the program.
Okay.
Did you have a look at it, Umberto?
Let me open here because I don't have my computer. Wait
Do
a
you have
moment.
access, Andrew?
I'll see if I can find a way to get to
You
it.
should have.
Yeah.
Just a moment.
I've also opened it again. Favorites. Go down. I had it open this morning, so it must work. Should. Yeah, it is. Because as far we all three witness program coordinators, as I remember.
I'm opening it here. Just a moment.
Because we had to change and we don't have chairs and these things, but at the moment. But what we have is we have the presenters in the sessions, and we have. Well, maybe wait until. Can you open it, Andrew?
I'm trying. Yeah, I gotta have to. I have to double check my password. I seldom use that account, and I just changed the password, and so I have to double check.
A moment.
So that I can maybe, when you're here, I can. What we had to do, we had not that many contributions, so that we couldn't have 4 or 5 per session. So we had, with one session that was affective and emotional dimensions of alienation, we had 11, something like this. And so I transferred one over them, so we can have 4 sessions going with this topic. We had for some sessions there nothing at all, so we had to delete them or transfer them. But we have more or less the full sessions have mostly three abstracts. That means they have instead of 15 minutes, they have 25 minutes for each presentation, which also gives time to present something. I hate it when it's 15 minutes. And we have a fairly enough of time for discussion, for reasonable discussion, I guess. So we just have to hope that everyone is coming. But also Westlaw said, if not, we can fill the time anyhow. But what I would like to do is that we just go through it from the beginning to the end and just on the
Okay.
surface to go over it. So program coordinator, there is no abstract that's clear, and business meeting also not.
All right.
Uh,
Let's see.
some meetings.
I have it open here.
Okay. When
And
we go,
would you
Andrew?
like would you
Oh,
like
hi,
me
Clara.
to present
I
my
can,
screen?
yeah, we can do that.
I'll have to reset my password. I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it after the session.
Yeah, so present it on the screen. That might be better. Okay. So, Clara, the problem is, I guess know what happened, but we have no presentation today. I don't know why there is no speaker. He's not there. So what we are doing now, and you're also welcome to participate, surely, is we are now speaking about the Rabat meeting and the final organization, also the organization of it. So we didn't have that. We had to change a little bit on the session proposals because some sessions had no papers and some had a fair enough amount of papers. So we had to just see, okay, how we can combine it as a matter of fact. And that brought us to that we have digital alienation,
Yes.
which contains more or less three different aspects. I just see as it opens papers, which has with the sociology of the vanishing human, um, contested identity between context about digital school and digital media. And we have digital identity in the age of I think that all three are fine. They are all okay, I think, in the respect to the overall frame of digital alienation. So these came together, and everyone has 25 minutes to speak, and so we have also time to discussion. So this is
Very
one. Then we have was only one
it's
digital alienation too.
yes.
And so it was because there's only two, meaning also what we can do is when we place it more or less each after each two sessions on one day time slot. So we can also compromise. So we have more. I know we can't do this because there are other people coming. So it's only two. So they have maybe 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes.
Good.
But it's the
Good.
same idea, and then we can discuss it. That was the only to fill it up and to make it reasonable. But it's also about digital digitation, digital alienation, and working from home. So
Wonderful.
both is related to work because one is the corporate executives and one is from working from home. So that was the idea why I brought it together, I guess. Yeah. So we had a lot of papers coming to the affective and emotional dimensions. So what I did was we have now three of them have three abstracts and one have two abstracts, but they are again it's the question when we place them, but I think they're all also fitting good together. So it's a big thing we talk about affective and emotional dimensions, but was the best way to have. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. The question is, and there's also a question to you, Andrew, with your expertise and knowledge about this. Now we have surely a session organizer as Emma,
Yes.
Olga, and so what we have to do now, it's how do we do this uh, with this chairing and with this with Emma and with Olga and how we do this more or
Um,
less
I believe now
because there are
it's
no
yes.
yeah because there are no session organizers for 3, 4 because we
I
split it right.
Yes, yes, and they cannot be the coordinator, the organizer for more than three.
So we have to maybe change also something, I think. I just have
Okay,
to see here. Um,
let me check the first.
no, it's not. It's not. It's some people are now session organizers, like Ramon um, from Spain and Laura, because they had before a session, but we had to change the name. So they have the station organized. So we have to inform them that it's now, yeah, okay, that this has changed.
We are going to assign now the dates to assign chairs is now in December.
Do we have to do it right now? Yeah, but we have to speak with the session organizers on the former session that it has changed, but the content is more or less the same. However,
Yes, yes,
um, but if they don't want to organize, it's also we have to talk with them somehow. We have
yes.
to
You
write
put
with them.
this one for Andrew here.
Yeah.
Yeah, genau. I put this from Emdu, and this is now.
Yes, yes. Now we see, and we need to also share because otherwise one person is going to be really loaded and
Yes,
another
yes.
right. So we need um let me see this number 4, Ramon Menendez, okay, and
Genau.
Laura, beautiful.
But they had another session before, but we had to rename it because there were no one signing up for it. So we had to.
Okay,
I think there would be
we
okay
kept
to.
the same organizers from the previous sessions. We just changed the title.
Yes, you couldn't do it otherwise. It is not a
Good.
possibility.
Good. Then we now are going to inform everyone about their roles and their duties, you know.
Yes,
So
I think that is.
we did keep alienation, racial capitalism in Palestine.
Yes, it
Alienation,
was two, and I guess it's also fine because it was the only one really going in this direction. But they can have maybe 30 minutes, or this is what
beautiful. Yeah.
but I don't wanna share this one, I guess.
No
Yeah,
worries.
we talked about this, yes.
It seems as if
And there may
And
be a lot of people coming to this, I guess.
this
Yeah.
one, the second alienation ethnology is organized by Ekaterina and David Embrick.
Also by David. Let's see. Which one? Let's see. Again,
The
what is this
second
one?
alienation ethnology. The first one is you as organizer, and the second one
Yeah.
is Ekaterina and David.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
It's
Also,
here.
the alienation sociology from its history. It's also Wessler there. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Let's go
It's our
next.
Swedish.
So
I
this
think
is
Swedish connection.
what I want to speak, because these higher education systems between quality assurance, those are not papers to present. This is Sylvia's panel.
Yes,
So it's a panel. So
but
it was to be considered like many people on a round table discussing.
oh, okay. So we can't put them.
Those abstracts are just the title, the theme of what they are talking, just like you and futures research for the other panel. So it
Okay,
was
so what can we do with this? So
what?
I because I made two out of it. That's a problem.
No worries. Perhaps we can. We still have time to change, right? Yes, December 5.
No. Well, we can write to Cecilia to help. That's not, I think,
But if we
wasn't a
can't,
problem.
let me see here who is on the second panel.
It was all the people who signed up for this. It's all these
Yes,
people signed up for this.
Bekuchi is in this one, and Sylvia's is on the first one. Let me
Yeah.
check. Mine is here on the first. Yes, Sylvia's on the first. Mine and Desideri.
Excuse me. I think our presenter just appeared.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I've just been here listening.
Hello there. How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good, good. I sent you an email. We thought you weren't coming.
Oh,
We
oh,
start we started 1 hour ago.
oh. In my email, it says 10 a.m.
Yes, yes. It's the time.
Yeah, so it's 10 a.m. now. Am I not supposed to join
Yes.
now?
It's a time confusion.
Is it is it is it 10 a.m. now?
Yeah,
Yes.
in New York.
It is exactly 10:08. Eight
So
minutes
We,
after
we
10.
gained an hour later also than here. It's not 3 o'clock, but 4 o'clock.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
email said 10 a.m., so I joined at
Yes,
10 a.m.
yes. New York
so,
time, Eastern time.
so it was my mistake
It's
because
okay.
then we are 2 hours apart, not 1 hour apart. It's noon
Yeah.
here in Rio de Janeiro right now, noon 8.
I'm sure this
Okay, and we have 4 o'clock, then it's also not 15. So it's yeah.
So let's do like this. Dicky, it's a pleasure having you. Um, let's do like this. Would you, Andrew and Dirk and Ladam, is it okay? Let's watch Dicky's work right now.
Yep.
My
Okay,
pleasure.
okay, beautiful. Dicky, you got 30 minutes. Nice,
Okay.
nice to have you here. And the session is being recorded. Okay,
Okay.
very nice. You have the word now.
Oh, okay, great. So can I share screen?
Yes, let me see here. Yes, you should be able to share yours.
Okay, great. Let me see. Oh. Okay. So can you all see this?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
1 second. I feel like we have too many screens these days everywhere. It's very confusing. Okay. All right. So I will start. Well, first of all, thank you for all of you for having me here. Happy holidays from the United States. Yeah, and thank you for organizing it. I could already see how much of hard work this is, so I really appreciate it. So my presentation today is on a study which looks at do-it-yourself, or what I call DIY cultures in sustainable fashion or secondhand fashion. And this is a subset of a larger book project that I'm currently working on. So for context, the book itself looks at why people shop secondhand clothing and how does it impact urban development in New York City. So basically consumption and urban development. So DIY, which is the topic of discussion today, is one of the archetypes or ideal types that I discovered in my fieldwork. So the central question I'm trying today, new clothes can be found at really low costs. So if that's the case, then why do people spend so much labor and resources, right? Time, money, and skills to repair clothes? So this question emerged from my observations that I made during my fieldwork, where I noticed a lot of people not only shop secondhand in the interest of sustainable fashion, but they also spend a lot of time and resource mending and fixing and repairing old clothes. So as you may already know, the consumption of used clothing has recently created a really fast-growing market, not just in the United States, but also in Europe, and also has earned the term thrifting, as what Gen Zs often like to call it. So while it's easy to chalk up this phenomena to sustainable fashion, what's actually taking place, I believe, is much more complex, and that's what I intend to show here. So currently, the fashion industry's production of textile waste accounts for 92 million tons each year around the globe. Of this waste, only 1% is recycled, and 87 either is incinerated or discarded in landfills. This number also accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions, 8.1% of greenhouse gas emissions, 35% of all microplastic pollution in the ocean, and 20% of global water waste. For example, the amount of water a person needs to survive is 2.5 years. That is, for 2.5 years is 2,700 liters of water. But that is also what it takes to produce a single cotton t-shirt. A shirt in a landfill takes 100 years to decompose, while a pair of shoes takes 400 years. All the while, it is releasing methane gas, which damages the ozone layer, leading to an increase in harmful UV rays, and rising temperature, which then creates species extinction in the biohabitat and natural disasters. So the numbers, as you can see, are daunting, and the many people that I've studied express rage and horror. In the words of Anna, one of the people I interviewed, she said, "I think fast fashion is really harmful. The dyes and microplastics used in production are just devastating to the environment. Rivers are drying up and entire ecosystems, both marine and freshwater, are being destroyed, all so people can wear something trendy just for a few weeks. It's honestly ridiculous how much damage is being done just for the sake of looking good for a moment." The disappointment is shared by many of the people I interviewed and isn't only just because of fast fashion's impact on environment, but overall many complain that mass production of fashion and the competition to stay ahead of trends has made fashion itself dull and boring. Another person, for example, said, "I've been feeling the same way lately. When I walk into malls, it's like everything blends together and looks the same. Just all the same stuff. Nothing really stands out anymore." In the economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844, Marx writes, "The alienation of the worker in his product means not only that his labor becomes an object, an external existence, that it exists outside of him independently as something alien to him, and that it becomes a power of its own confronting him. It means that the life which he has conferred on the object confronts him as something hostile and alien." Marx, of course, is not only talking about alienation, but a kind of severance that results from the labor or work one does. A double-edged sword where man himself and his work are reduced to objects, leading to estrangement, objects which, as his own existence or subsistence, in his words, hostile and alien, confronts him. I think it's worth pausing at this moment of confrontation and consider this confrontation in the contemporary landscape of political economy, or rather, as I later urge for, cultural economy. The difference, as scholars on postmodernity have elucidated, is that today, consumption has become a key organizing principle of modern economic and social life. Baudrillard, for example, in The Consumer Society, Myths and Structures, puts forward the argument that modern economies are increasingly dominated by consumerism, where individuals are defined more by their consumption habits and the commodities they acquire than by their work of production. Within this strain of thought, an object of consumption is not an object of consumption unless it is released from its psychic determinations as a symbol, from its functional determinants as an instrument, from its commercial determinants as product, in Baudrillard's words, is a dominant outlook shared by others, Jameson, including Lachaussee. In other words, hyperconsumption in postmodern societies is accompanied by aestheticization, and goods in the contemporary economy are less valued for their utility and more as signs. If this shift in political economy is true, then one can say that what confronts the modern individual, whose identity rests as much on his objects of consumption as does his labor, is consumption and the object of consumption, which as signs are now hostile and alien, causing estrangement. Here, I use estrangement synonymously with alienation. So it is consumption, which is also causing alienation. In fashion, this is demonstrated, as mentioned earlier, by the plethora of objects whose ends are met by mountains of textile waste in landfills, the environmental degradation caused by it, and to further extent, the kinds of labor exploitation it engages in the production of mass or fast fashion. One can say then that fashion today, which generally consists of fast fashion, semiotically signifies alienation, especially to those who are adherents of, in response, sustainable fashion. So briefly, a quick note on methodology. This was an early discovery in my ethnographic fieldwork, which I carried for 2 years from 2018 to 2020 and recently in the summer of 2024. Overall, I collected 305 surveys, interviewed 55 participants, observed over a dozen secondhand shops, including shopping with 9 of my participants. So I followed them and shopped with them. I visited their homes to study their closets, worked at a thrift shop one summer, attended mending workshops, repair workshops with my participants, and created spatial maps using geographic information systems. I used the survey to identify interview respondents depending on their motivation for consuming secondhand clothing. The interviews were open-ended, lasted between 45 minutes to 2 hours at times, and the shopping trips and home visits from 2 to 3 hours on average. The result of my fieldwork, interview transcripts were then coded into themes and sub-themes. The results presented here, as I mentioned earlier, present only a subset of the data collected, given this presentation is only about one of the ideal types. So moving into the findings, the do-it-yourself. So it's a rainy Saturday afternoon in Queens, New York. Inside Violet's shop, however, the smell of incense and jazz, you can almost forget the world outside. Giselle walks by carefully, every once in a while glancing up at the decor. She parks herself by a rack. Denim jeans from different eras hang on wooden clips. She slides her hands down and picks up one of the pant legs and turns the cuff inside out and then unfolds it. She moves through each of the pants, turning them inside out and then back. She's scouring for selvage denim. Selvage denim, for self-edge, refers to the outer lines of the remaining fabric once sewn into clothes. Selvage denim were made prior to 1985 by Levi's, the denim brand, and used specific looms which were then discontinued. Selvages now were a way to identify rare jeans, which often sells for ups of $40,000. Giselle likes to find them and repair them. When I repair, I try not to make it look like I repaired them, she says. Oops, sorry. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. It's hard to tell. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, only for jeans, when I feel like jeans are an exception where you can do a box repair and it'll still look like it's part of the jeans, she says. But as someone who loves fashion, who's all about construction, doing things the right way when I repair, it's hard to tell. You know that it's been repaired, unless I go to the measure of repairing a rip that is on a seam. You know, those are hard because then you have to bring the whole together and you're going to see the repair, especially if it's a solid fabric, not a print. Do you repair a lot of things you buy? I asked. Yes. So when I'm doing like vintage or thrift shopping, let's say the shirt has a tear, I'll repair it. Certain things are repairable within reason, she says. Let's say there's a white t-shirt and it has a black stain on it. Of course, I would have to take it to the cleaners or somewhere else that can use chemicals to get out the stain. But then it also bubbles down to a cost factor. So I do find it, you know, worthwhile to repair for the sake of not having to buy it somewhere else or less quality or within reason I'm willing to repair. People like Giselle are what I identified in my research as do-it-yourselves or DIYs. Within sustainable fashion and secondhand fashion, they are a subgroup of people who prefer to consume used clothing due to ethical concerns, but also like to repair the clothes they buy. While repairing something can be costly from a time and labor perspective, they find it worthwhile to care for things by mending them. At the same, as illustrated in the interview excerpt above, They display a higher technical knowledge of the craft of making clothing, or they display a willingness to learn. So, what is worth repairing? As Giselle states, I do find it worthwhile to repair. Her statement raises the question of what makes something worth repairing. Why are some things made to look like they have not been repaired, while on other clothes, repair is worn like a badge of honor? If things were, as Giselle said, repairable within reason, what were those reasons? In The Craftsman, the sociologist Richard Sennett discusses objects that don't work and the important role repair plays in human consciousness. He makes a distinction between static repair, that is to take something apart and fix what's wrong, then restore the object to its former state, and dynamic repair, that is to change the object's current form or function once it is assembled. The distinction is significant because it signals two sorts of emotional responses. In contemplating Giselle's and Sennett's notion of repair comparatively, the question then arises, what is it that isn't working, and what kinds of emotional responses are signaled by them? Giselle, for example, tells me people buy jeans that look like they've been repaired. They even have this pair of jeans from a miner, she continues. There was this coal miner whose jeans blew out on the side and his wife repaired them in some crazy way. So Levi's manufactured multiple jeans that look like that repair. Same with flannel shirts. Like the back of a shirt would get blown out. So you put another flannel there to create a contrast and then manufacture shirts that look like that, like they have been repaired. You can buy that look. Giselle is horrified, and one might even claim repulsed. But why horror and repulsion? Thinking of repair and the kinds of emotional responses evoked by them, in the case of genes that look like they've been repaired, one can argue that what is not working in this is this look. To look like something is not necessarily, in essence, to be that thing. A look, as the proverbial saying goes, can be deceptive. Giselle, for example, organizes used clothing into categories of A-list and B-list. When asked what the difference is, she tells me A-list clothes are more authentic. But what does that mean? What does she mean by authenticity? Authentic, she replies, for me in terms of style is like, let's say Gucci, the Italian luxury design house, did this 70s collections, and I know they have this blue shag fur coat. I loved it, she says. Now, let's say you found it in a thrift store for like $70 or $80. I think the one in the thrift store is more authentic because in my eyes, it is from that era. It's from that time. And to get a piece from that time is a lot more authentic than Gucci deciding to bring it back in 2017. So not all things are worthy of the same repair. A-list vintage clothes, for example, are perceived to be more authentic and therefore worthy of static repair. Unlike things that are made to look like they're from a particular time period, A-list clothes are authentic, according to DIYs like Giselle, for their legitimacy is grounded in time, history, and tradition. Authenticity here is akin to Walter Benjamin's concept of aura, that is entrenched in the here and now, and it is unique in its existence in the place where it is at this moment. What another research participant described as having a sense of history. In the eyes of DIYers, things that are copies then are without aura or history. They are inauthentic because they were not witness to the passage of time. And as copies manufactured in multiples, like the miner's jeans by Levi's, its circulation displaces the original, as Benjamin states, in the removal of the original form from human perception, threatening tradition. If consumption and commodities in contemporary society is valued as signs, as scholars of postmodernism state, then things made to look repaired or copies are also signs and semiotically with signifiers. In that regard, the displacement of history and tradition can be seen as signifiers of the original. That things, material objects like clothes, are signifiers is of course not exclusive to postmodernism, but rather a universal feature of social life. Durkheim, for example, in Observation of Early Societies, had discussed the role of the totem as representation of the collective consciousness of a group. In Australia and North America, for example, he mentions how each region is defined by the totem of the clan to which it is assigned. These totem can be banal objects, a beetle, a feather, a carved wooden board, or even an old pair of used jeans in the case of DIYers, but are made sacred, for they become icons of mythologies. What is history and tradition if not mythology normatively accepted as real? Why else would the burning of a national flag evoke emotions of anger and violence if it was not the totem of a clan? Likewise, copies as dupes can be seen as objects that don't work, for they are not only inauthentic, they are profane, for they signify the removal of tradition and thus evoke emotions of fear and repulsion in people like Giselle. The significance of tradition here can be articulated as the result of fast fashion, where fast itself indicates the hypercircularity of copies and consumption of copies. In one of the earliest papers on fashion in sociology, Yangzom observes how people change fashion to maintain social position, where as soon as one copies another group, that group changes its attire. What is at the core of Zimmel's insight is the precarity of meaning in modern life. Things change because its collective meaning changes. This characterization of modernity is also shared by Marx in one of his most evocative and famous lines in the Communist Manifesto, that all that is solid melts into air, all that is holy is profaned. DIYers concern themselves with inauthenticity, for it represents the consequences of the destabilization of meaning in modern life. Inauthentic things, therefore, are subject to dynamic repair, altering both form and function. So A-list secondhand clothes, because they are perceived to be authentic or with aura, are worthy of static repair. Oops, sorry. Realized my order is different. Okay. A rip on the side seam, an armhole that came apart in the lining, or the replacement of a buttonhole are the kinds of repair that take place. Agnes, another respondent, told me, I buy clothes that are worn but not torn. When asked of the difference, she said I would hem something or pinch the waist, a rip or a stain or a seam, but something that is poor quality and falling apart is not something I'm interested in. According to people like Agnes, vintage clothes are representative of a time period when clothes were made better, both in its design, construction, and textiles used. So many DIYers hold a view that a care for the way things were made existed in earlier times. So A-list secondhand clothes are fixed or mended and restored to their original state. So there are lots of videos like this online that you can see where people restore things as well. What is restored in static repair, one can argue, is not only the material's original state, but also what Jeffrey Alexander calls iconic consciousness. Things like totems have iconic power, for when their force is not only of a material kind, but a symbolic one. One experiences iconicity, but not by way of communication, but by sensuous aesthetic experience. In his words, to be iconically conscious is to understand without knowing, to at least without knowing that one knows. It is to understand by feeling, by contact, by the evidence of the senses rather than the mind. As symbols, things with iconicity imbue meaning, but these meanings are not always manifest or made known via communication. Instead, the consciousness which derives from iconic things is always latent, but powerful, for its very elusiveness is what makes the feelings and thought it conjures real for its actors. Hence, there's a dialectical relationship between the iconic symbol and its meaning, between what he calls surface and depth. What is being repaired on the surface is the restoration of the material clothing, while in its depth, its meaning as well. Oops. So B-list secondhand clothes, on the contrary, have a different iconic consciousness. As elaborated earlier, these are seen as inauthentic and represent the social ills of modern life. Therefore, B-list clothes are subject to dynamic repair, where the object is altered in form and function, including its meaning. For example, on another day, I met a woman named Joanna in a thrift shop, and after talking about secondhand shopping for a while, we met for an interview the following day. I inquired about a pair of shoes she was wearing, Chuck Taylor sneakers, which were only faintly recognizable. Joanna was happy that I asked her about her shoes and proudly boasted that she found them at Housing Works in Greenwich Village, including the overalls she was wearing. Joanna was stylish and definitely could be described as one of those people who marched to the beat of their own drums. Taking a closer look at her sneakers, I asked, "Did you buy them that way?" "No way, I made them," she retorted. The shoes were made via a laborious process using, as she described in detail, with 5 coats of white acrylic paint, which creates a plastic-like surface, which then, when worn, gave it a distressed look. They were, she told me, inspired by the Belgian fashion designer Martin Margiela, who was often dubbed as the reincarnation of Duchamp and was known for his deconstructionist aesthetics and unconventional use of materials like duct tape and exposed seams. If in static repair things were restored to their original state, here it went under a metamorphosis, in complete destruction, its iconic consciousness now standing for a new meaning. So the bottom is what it looks like originally, and as the paint gets distressed, it changes what it looks like. So in the homologous relationship between surface and depth, material and symbol, divergent processes are also taking place. If static repair is reserved for things that are sacred, things that are sacred and dynamic for those which are profane, others like denim jeans occupy an ambiguous place. As Giselle earlier stated, when I repair, I try not to make it look like it's been repaired, only for jeans. Jeans for me are an exception. When inquired further, she describes, "I've blown out jeans, blown out at the knees, and if I don't want the distressed look anymore, there are ways I can repair them. You can put a panel behind it and darn over it. Darning is a sewing technique done by hand with the use of another thread or yarn in a pattern that fills in the holes or tears in a fabric. You can also patch it on top. You can trim the edges off like a clean distress hold and fold it in. After that, you can create an edge stitch around it," she tells me. You can see the amount of technical knowledge that one has to acquire in order to become a DIYer. Jeans are an exception because they possess a different iconicity than A-list or B-list secondhand clothing. In Global Denim, Miller, for example, discusses the ubiquity of jeans, which in part gave it its global reputation. Jeans are, in Benjamin's definition, things with aura. They are iconic in the history and tradition they possess, from the Indian indigo dye to the Rust Belt coal miners during the 1800s, to its mythologization in Hollywood Western cowboy films. While this history gives it efficacy at the same, it is a commercialized commodity. Neither sacred or profane, I argue what they are in Van Nepp and Victor Turner calls liminal. Its materiality speaks to its temporal relationship, where a blown out and repaired denim carries with it both history and the thwarting of tradition, its gaping hole and tear signifying both endurance of time and its residue. Endurance is signified in the intactness of the fabric, and residue not in the presence of material, fiber, thread, and cloth, but in the absence, the deprivation of light, color, and material. Not deserving wholly of restoration or complete destruction, at the threshold of sacred and profane, they are subject to liminal repair. Here's another example. Okay. So on a collective level, the whole phenomena of repair and DIY can be read as a homologous relationship between surface and depth. On the surface, things need to be repaired because it represents a crisis. Consider the current state of hyperconsumption and waste. For DIYers, we are far too deep in the world of copies, imitation, and hypercirculation of commodities, where precarity and destabilization of meaning can also be described as anomie in the Durkheimian sense, a disease of the infinite or a normlessness. Therefore, old and used clothing, what is otherwise discarded as trash, is redeemed, recycled, and repaired. This politics of care is also symbolized by the performance of repair itself. Whether static, dynamic, or liminal repair, their iconic consciousness is the result of ritualistic performances, i.e., many of the mending workshops I attended in my fieldwork and often performed publicly to wear repair as a badge of honor, as you guys have seen. One can argue objects don't become symbolic unless their meanings are performed. But this process, as Alexander notes in his theory of cultural pragmatics, is more complex in modern societies where meaning itself is often diffused. This is why DIYers are concerned with authenticity, for their experience, for they experience fast fashion as the diffusion of meaning, of what is bureaucratic and sacred for a thwarts tradition, resulting in a crisis. Therefore, performances of repair in its depth is an attempt to refuse meaning by restoring the sacredness of secondhand clothing. Furthermore, if modern life, as Marx stated, leads to estrangement of man from his own body and estrangement of man from man, DIY culture in secondhand or sustainable fashion is a way of navigating this alienation. Not only do these cultures form some sense of social solidarity, but in repair, the body is re-engaged. Where industrial labor has turned man into an automated tool and thereby removing his ability to intelligently through the workings of craft know himself and his circumstances, it is in repair that man relearns, understanding not only how things work, but in process comes to realize himself. To conclude, material culture in sociology bears a bad name under the concept of commodity. Yet contemporary social life is one proliferating with commodities, and as shown in the study, the hyperconsumption of commodities. This places us as an urgent juncture to probe beyond the face value of consumption with a deeper look. Marx, of course, was limited in his analysis of material culture, for he only saw them as subjects of fetishism. As others have pointed out, the problem was not material culture or materiality or its fetishism. It was the fetishism of commodities, of attributing magical qualities to abstract and objectified qualities. In analyzing DIYers in sustainable fashion, what I've tried to do here is rather make cultural life more material. Rather than make cultural life more material, I've tried to make material life more cultural. In that modern life is as much composed of cultural economy as political economy. Going further than Marx in the Hegelian fashion of dialectics, I have shown that commodities can be sublated and its iconic consciousness change. We are alienated not because we fetishize things, but because we don't fetishize them enough. Otherwise, how can we explain the mountain of waste that is our crisis now? Thank you.
It was brilliant.
It
was brilliant. I believe that to all of us, you brought us to a place that we weren't expecting. And I have some notes here, but let's give the word first to Andrew, who raised his hand. Andrew, your comments.
Thanks very much. It was a very interesting presentation, a subject that one doesn't hear discussed very often. And I appreciate your insights. How should I put this? We seem to be talking about saving the consumer from a certain experience of alienation, but I'm not sure what that has to do about saving the producer from a certain experience of alienation. In other words, your discussion is very closely focused. And of course, you said yourself that there were many things that you had to leave out for the sake of discussion, that your project addressed a number of related themes. It might be interesting to hear more about those at an appropriate time. But consumerism, of course, is what has become the essence of modern capital and modern capitalism in more developed societies. But the issue of alienation and production has not gone away. Simply, by pushing it into other nations, other countries, other economic units, other economic spaces. And so, if you would, I know this is not the thrust of your discussion, but still, if you would care to speculate on that a bit, I would appreciate it very much. I mean, I think your discussion as far as, of course, many people, we all know many people, friends, family members, colleagues, who now, the issue of secondhand clothing and what it means and why we should become involved with it, why we should use it, why we should rescue it, if you wish. That's something that's has certainly become a very important issue. But if you would care to speculate on something that you didn't discuss, I would appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. You know, prior to like becoming a sociologist, I used to work in fashion as a designer. So I have seen the really, really horrible sides as well, and which means the production aspect. And I myself was a very alienated and exploited laborer, right? Um, I absolutely agree. On the one hand, this is a very specific group of people, and it's a group of people who see the world this way and think this way. And I'm trying to look at, it's interesting. We always look at alienation from the perspective of labor, but how can we understand alienation and consumption, especially if modern economies are kind of understood that way, right? Um, so that's one, it's sort of trying to describe the world from the way that these people see it. But I think there's certainly an irony there, which you pointed out, right? And I talk about this more in the book. Um, the irony being that now we have this entire system of consumption that tries to solve all these problems by consuming. So it's like, let's solve consumption by consuming. Right. So, I mean, that's also quite ironic about all of this conversation about secondhand and sustainability or kind of ethical consumption. I think there's a lot of work on ethical consumption coming out too. But there is certainly that irony. And how much does it really help workers, in developing countries who are actually exploited and producing the things we use? I'm skeptical.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, if I could follow up just a moment, I think it's arguable that consumption has become the means by which people gain power over us. That I think there is a lot that quantity fetishism can still teach us, although it's certainly been a well beaten topic for many years, many decades. But of course, the what you discussed, what you have discussed in your presentation, it's a very visible phenomenon that is fascinating in and of itself. By the way that by its focus on, as you said just now, saving consumers from by means of further consumption, so to speak, right? And you know, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dirk?
Also want to, first of all, thank you for the presentation. Pretty interesting, because also I'm working on aesthetics and
Oh,
commodities and so forth, so that's really interesting. I also thought about when you talked about authentics, I thought really the discussion about Adorno and Benjamin about the aura, and then you came out of it with the same. So, but I was I'm thinking about do you know me as thinking about this? First of all, it's a you have it maybe but not presented, but you have it in your book already. It's about the motivation about to do it yourself, because I think it might be a difference of people doing it because lack of opportunity to buy first the authentic commodities, or they have to do something like it. So it's first, do you distinguish between the motivation of it, or is it more or less a political statement, or is it out of not having other opportunities and so forth? The second is thinking about commodities. Well, as we teach, or normally it's about the use and change value coming into this. Where do you find with second-hand commodities? Where is it still a commodity when you have it, or if it's now its use value? When is it coming back to a change or not? Or where is the state of it? Where is it changing? And then I thought about you might know him, Wolfgang Fritz Haug, critique of commodity aesthetics.
Hmm.
It's an old book, then it's revised again and thought about it. I just went into the chat. This also is very interesting how he's talking about not only selling clothes and commodities, but also the inner nature of the commodities. So you might have a look at his work, and it's also available on the internet. So it's really easy to get it. So to think about it. The other thing is, do you know Yuro Saito or Yuko Saito? She is working also on everyday aesthetics. And what she's doing is she's also working on environmental things and aesthetics. So you also can have a look at her work, I guess. In this book, she is also trying to make a change of consciousness with respect to everyday aesthetics and commodities, with respect to environmental and using these things. Mm. But I really liked it. I like the idea of thinking not as both, also the consumption. And the other thing is thinking about, and this is the last thing I want to say. What is it? Zygmunt Bauman wrote in the, I think it's the new consumerism and the poor, or the new poor and the consumerism, something like this. Also about that, the new poor are the ones who cannot consume anymore. So with thinking about, it's not the not having money, but not consuming anymore, is it a new type of consuming or positioning oneself in the space of consumers consuming with dealing and doing it yourself, also changing the commodities. So this is a new dimension in it. And now I'm still again, that was it.
Okay. Thank you so much for all the suggestions. You know, one of the things I was going to say again, I always try to be mindful, especially when talking about consumption, is not to neglect the importance of production as well, because I think often it can come off as very Eurocentric, right? Or Americentric, let's say, because we are so positioned within our reality and we live in very affluent places that we forget that this is not the reality for most of the world. And part of that is also kind of trying to keep a larger lens and to read really broadly and not just refer to people around you, right? So thank you so much for recommending all of these sources. I'm going to look into them and oh, thank you so much. I was going to say I was going to email you to ask more. Thank you for putting it in the
You can
chat.
also do this. You can also do this. I'm also at the moment writing a book chapter about this, so including them. So we can talk about it. So that's
Yeah,
fun.
wonderful. I'd love to talk more. Yeah, I think, you know, motivation. So, well, I mean, addressing your first question, I think it's the reason why I found it really interesting that here are all these people, because I mean, again, when you're doing field work, you know, you go into a world and you have no idea what you're going to find. And when I met all these people who were making things, if you really think about it from a labor perspective, ironically, it doesn't make sense because it's so much cheaper to buy something than to make something. This is also why, I mean, I could see this in New York City. You have a lot of storage spaces. People now rent storage spaces. We have so much stuff that we need stuff to put our stuff in, right? Like it's so bizarre the times we're living in. And then like I notice a lot of repair shops like cobblers are closing. So that tells us so much because you know, even something like shoes, which we repair quite a lot, right? If we repair shoes, it's more expensive than buying something at times. So people don't repair, people throw away, which is why we have this huge problem. Of course, like the developing countries will have to pay the price, unfortunately. So I think we're living through this. So in terms of motivation, I would say that the idea that long time ago, and in my book, I talk about the history of secondhand clothing, when actually the only way we could have clothes was to make it by hand. So it was so difficult to obtain that we valued it, right? And now it's the opposite. So I think the motivation is that, you know, I believe it is so rare that someone is fixing things because they cannot afford other things. right? Like, I mean, even if you can go to like mass fashion stores like H&M and buy shirts for like $1, $2 sometimes, it's bizarre, right? So I think the problem we have, and Richard Sennett in The Craftsman talks about this, is we have the problem that is the opposite of scarcity. We have a problem of waste, which is something someone like Georg Simmel in his essay on fashion also talks about, which, if you think about it, he was really ahead of his time. The other thing I find sometimes very narrowing, one, sociology doesn't really study material culture. I wish we did more. Um, I'm right. Like, I mean, this is why you guys are surprised to an extent. But I think it's so limited to look at something as use value or exchange value. Is there no other understanding of value? And I think that often comes because, as I said, we look at things as commodities. So in a sense, when I was talking about this is why I find Hegel more useful, and I'm always curious why Marx didn't use this part of Hegel, is this idea of sublation, right? That in the dialectical process, right, things can be sublated. So once it's sublated, then things can also be decommodified in a sense. It's personalized, it's no longer alienating. And this is what a lot of people are doing. They're taking the trash and fixing it and repairing it. And there's an entire aesthetics to it, which then makes it yours, personal, the opposite of something that alienates. So I think we are really in due time to perhaps have a new idea of value other than use value or exchange value. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation. In Toronto, it is good morning to all, or day to everybody else. I hope you are enjoying yourself. And the question, or actually the statement of the question is that, in terms of repairing or recycling, that is also part of the new culture of consumerism in a positive side of it. But all these things, recycling, especially, I mean, repairing, especially items that, for example, like Gucci, that have a kind of brand name that everybody's interested because it is a signifier of someone's status in a way. So I would like to know, all these things is interconnected to the issue of power making or power preserving. Some people did not have it in the past. Right now, by basically mending to these items, they are try to say that they are, they can afford this brand that they could not afford before. This is also part of the augmentation of one's status. And the other thing, I don't know if you have ever gone to Escape from Evil, Ernest Becker. No, it is, it is one of those, he tries to combine a kind of psychoanalysis with Marxist analysis. But the whole thing is that, man or human beings are creatures that are after meaning in their lives. And because we are mortal, so they are after to creating something bigger than them that they can last beyond their death. I think this, there is a symbolic, as you also mentioned, symbolic power to all this, consuming culture that we are living in. But it is something that objects stay longer than us as people who are mortal. So this is, I would like to know in terms of the relation to a kind of existential, meaning, the objects as meaningful things. And the other thing is that in terms of the power making, the issue of status is not just, something that you want to augment this, the importance of the self. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I will definitely look into that book. What you're speaking of also kind of reminds me of Viktor Franklin,
Yes.
his work. This is why I found the idea of enemy, like Durkheim's enemy, interesting to think about next to alienation. I know it's been compared many times, but I feel the kind of enemy that people are experiencing is this kind of existential crisis, right? So one way to think about it is when you think about status, someone like Zimmel says, people, the reason why fashion started, right? Early sociological explanation, people want to copy people on the top. And then they change their fashion and the others copy. So it keeps going like circle. But I think now the circle is going so fast, right? So we have 4 to 5 seasons in a year. Most design houses produce about 5 to 6 collections a year. But now we have fashion companies coming out of places like China that are producing about 200 and something collections in a year. So if you are a designer, you are at the cusp of having to create new things every single day, right? So my point about all of this is this experience of time that people have. And I think we do this because we understand time through representation. And we can think of fashion as a representation. So when that is changing so fast and meaning is changing so fast, I think people don't know how to make sense of this anymore. I think this is more like true, especially for younger people now. And so there is really this kind of crisis that I think of. The other thing about power also is one on a global scale to think about, the global South and the global North, let's say. On another way, you could also think about it is about power because we can think about the idea of making something, repair, which takes a lot of time, right? And so, quote, time is money in that sense, right? So who has time today to say, you know what, I'm going to take time to fix something? Most people have to go to work. They have to pay bills, right? So I think the idea of repair itself almost enters this world of leisure. So then it becomes about status indirectly, right? There's like a latent kind of thing. It's like, oh, look, I have time to make things. I am morally maybe more superior than you because you don't care, right? So I don't know. I wonder if it like sometimes that kind of thing can be happening. And I agree with you on meaning making and symbolic. So I think this is why I find it interesting to look at material culture as sort of this, dialectical, some homologous thing where it tells you what is latently happening in culture. Part of which, I think there is, of course, tension. It's not, completely good or completely bad, but I think it has a lot to do with how we think about the self and how do we know the self, which is kind of embedded in this Cartesian like dualism of subject and object, right? So I think here is a way to kind of make the object more subjective. So I hope that answers your question. I feel like I was a little all over the place.
But the thing is that you said in terms of the time, the luxury of the time, not everybody has the luxury of the time. But I would like to add that not everybody has the expertise to basically fix
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
In the sense that not everybody is capable of, for example, buying a Gucci, but then come and to repair it. So this is the idea of expertise is also another, part of this whole thing. So it is it's very complex if you want to see it.
Yeah.
But yes, this is part of it, symbolic part of the
Yeah.
material existence. Yes.
I think here, in a way, I feel like you're talking about, knowledge. Like even to go into a thrift shop and to know something is Gucci, that knowledge itself is capital.
Yes, yes. It means that you are part of the system.
Yeah.
It means that you are part of the system that you basically want to undermine. If somebody wants to undermine it, if looking for the Gucci by itself, speaking of a privilege, even at the level of knowledge. Yes.
Agreed. Yeah. This is why I find this whole ethical consumption such an irony. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Dirk?
Okay. Um, coming back to two things. The first is the use value, as you said, not just use and exchange value, but I thought not only in a kind of commodity form, use value, but when it's not not exchange value anymore, so that it becomes, so that it's going to be use value for the user. What I thought with that was more, it's a position of when it's not exchange value more, the use value in our fast time, commodity time, clothes time is that it's not worth to have it long because it's a kind of a satisfying false needs. And the idea is that you don't have, more or less, you don't buy clothes because you use it, as you also said, because it's to satisfy your needs, your false needs, and then you just have to throw it away or don't wear it and you just buy new ones. The question lying behind it is, where is the conscious building and the concept there? That was what I was pinpointing to with the use and exchange value. The kind of where can we find in these and the people who repair static, dynamic, also force the clothes, especially the dynamic, the altering clothes. Is there a different kind of conscious mindset coming on? It's a critical one there. So it's a question of culture, the mindset. And another question or another comment is with the kind of experience of time. It was reminded me on the arcade project of Benjamin, where also more or less the new clothes, the new things are not new because there are always a regression to the time, to the past. So the question, so it's not only it's a time of the do-it-yourself person, but it's also a kind of where is the time limit there in a broader dimension? Do we have a broader concept of time? Because what they're doing is maybe they are breaking the circle out of it, because maybe they are now not producing because others did it, because maybe it's now another step. But this I can't say because I don't see the work of them. And maybe they have something totally new or doing something totally screwed up, like you mentioned, Duchamp, and maybe so they go maybe in another kind of art direction. So we go more to art and also critics of society with this and that. Coming to the conscious question. If it makes sense to you, the question.
Could you repeat the last part, please?
The last part was I'm combining, so the more or less breaking the time, also making really new things because it's more connected to art. Maybe it's also because of being conscious about what they're doing, more like, let's say, situationists, international situationists, or like Dada, like doing it because of a critique of society. Also, is there also political aspect, conscious political aspect in it?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things I think. I'm trying to acknowledge, Marx and Marx's work, but at the same time, how can we look at things from different frameworks? The reason why I say that is, again, going back to this question of use value and exchange value, but at the same time, how can we think of a different kind of value? And if we think about it this way, I feel like it's worth revisiting our relationship. This is why I talked about totems, because it's worth revisiting our relationships to material things before industrialization. Right. So material things, again, also existed in non-commodified versions. So if we look at it that way, then I wonder, what does it tell us about the kind of society we're living in now? And one way to think about this, and I have to do more thinking on this idea of labor. Labor as Marx talks about it, and then labor as the labor of the craftsman. Again, I think this is why I talk about the subject-object Cartesian split, is because I think there's a way of knowing the self and changing your consciousness, which can be very critical, that comes from labor by making things. But I think we often think that it's by text. But text is not the only form of knowing or education or knowledge. It's also by making. So in that sense, I do think it's very critical that people are saying, I'm going to make things. And I think a lot of people are doing this. It's not just in fashion and clothes, it's happening in other areas of life as well. And on the other hand, I think we can see sort of a backlash from capitalism as well. And I was going to say, there's a really great documentary right now on Netflix on shopping. And it talks about repair and how a lot of companies like Apple, for example, intentionally make things so that they cannot be repaired because then you have to keep buying new. So I think labor is a critical way of trying to know yourself. But then the question is there a way to do labor that is not alienation, that is not objectifying? And that's kind of what I was trying to answer. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's a distinction between labor and, as with Marx, and wage labor. I mean,
Yeah.
there is labor that is not alienated, that is for the humankind. I
Yeah.
mean, that is the broad distinction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I think the repair and crafts analogy. Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, I just wanted to underscore a point that came up in your discussion with Ladan, that the well, repairing clothes used to be something that poor people did, right? Wearing secondhand clothes used to be something that working class people or agricultural people in large families did to keep themselves going. It was not something it was not a way of uh, giving a new value to a commodity. Uh, Sometimes it wasn't even a commodity, but that's all you had, and it had sometimes to be worn for many decades or for more than one generation of the family. The I have to say that thinking of it's actually what I guess I want to say is it's become something that's snobbish, repairing clothing, rather than something that's done out of necessity or something that's done for the sake of fashion itself, for the sake of some kind of an elite, even an economic elite, rather than something that you have to do because you have nothing else. The, some years ago, it's not quite the same as it used to be, but of course, market in the fashion market in distressed clothing, right? Distressed the denim,
Yeah.
right? Denim that was pre-torn, right? And these kinds of things, right? That reminded me, it still does remind me, there's a blues tune. I guess most white boys and girls know it from maybe Paul Butterfield, although it's an older tune, called Poor Boy. I'm a poor boy. People ask me what a poor boy does. I wear rags for clothes. I stuff newspapers in my shoes. I'm a poor boy. Now, this is something that poor boys don't do, poor girls don't do. This is something that people with means do.
Mhm.
It's odd the way the significance of it has changed in that sense. Repair not becoming a necessity, but repair itself becoming a form of commodity, shall we say, that in the sense that it's accessible only to people of a certain economic or social status. So
I think
anyway,
it's, yeah. What you're saying makes me think of two things. And this is less of an intellectual answer and more of a personal answer. Is one, I recall reading that when they were making distressed jeans, these women in India had to put these jeans, which were brand new out of the factory, into a huge barrel and put rocks in the barrel and then spin it to make the jeans look more distressed. But if you think about these women, for them, they're looking at this thinking, what am I doing? This is crazy, right? For
mm-hmm,
them, they're working so that they can have this little wage to buy these things that have quote unquote status from the West.
mm-hmm.
Right. But then the irony is they're sitting here to sell these things for such high price, which they're destroying. And I think this kind of irony shows you what maybe like now post-globalization world looks like. The other thing I think about is in my own case, as an immigrant in the United States, my parents came here and they had to wear secondhand clothes because they had to earn enough money to bring their families and send us to school. But then now you have a generation that's buying used clothing. So for my parents, it's really baffling. It's like, this is the whole purpose. We don't want you to do this. We work so hard so that we can buy you all these new things, right? And then there's a new generation. So I think it also shows a shift in consciousness. So I absolutely agree. It's a topsy-turvy world.
Thank you for the conversation, you and Lila, on this particular point.
Um, well, I'm just going to make my comments. Yes, Dirk. Um, let's say it's really interesting when you mentioned about emotional response to two different types of repair, right? Of one, you just want to fix what's wrong, but the other emotional response is really tied to identity, right? And it's really interesting. There is this famous case here in Brazil because in June we have the St. John's party all across Brazil. So it's like this countryside looking party where you dress up like people who own cattle and oxen, and cows and people from the countryside in the urban zone, right? And then you dress up like a countryside person but the bad thing is they paint their teeth black or they have all this raggedy and torn clothing, and my dad who was from the countryside we grew up in the countryside it was like very, very, very upset. He was very upset because this is not how people in the countryside they dress. They put their best dress to go to parties. You have no idea what people in the countryside is like. So people with huge holes on their jeans, you know. And my dad but this is the symbolism that we have in the urban area. The aesthetics of the countryside, the aesthetics of the inner part, the inner land, in the country, outside Sao Paulo, outside Rio de Janeiro. So it's like, it's really interesting because this really shows that it's not just about the identity of who's wearing it, but the identity of the other, right? How I imagine the other to be, so I will dress up like him. So this is really interesting, and this is an emotional response. I'm going to tear my clothing so I can have fun in a party where everybody's going to be torn and raggedy. So it's like it's an identity-based decision. It's an identity-based motivation, as Dirk said about motivation. So this is really interesting for me, and also the rules, the norms, in order for them to become peculiar and unique, they have the norms. No, I don't do that with jeans. I just do that with skirts. Or I don't scratch the shirts. I'm going to show my underwear. Some people like to show their underwear and to walk in a different way with their pants hanging low. So it's like this is for people to recognize each other as well. The symbolism is incredible. And when you said about the sociologists don't look at the material, my 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 mind blew up because actually this is really what it is. This is really what it is. So I am going to stick my head. I don't have a question. Just want to thank you a lot. To appreciate your work, and I'm going to stick this surface, depth, endurance, and residue that I work here because this is really, really, really interesting. How things that we see sometimes we don't care about the aesthetics, we don't care about the outline, we don't care about how it looks, but we care so much about narratives. And it's really interesting because narratives are like aesthetics for the words, right? This is how I see it because we do have images in the words, we do have symbolism in what we say, what we read, these communications, everything has become a symbol, you know. I believe this is why sociologists are so, I don't know, depressed. But anyways, I just want to appreciate your work. It's really interesting. I really want to read more. You're more than invited to write a chapter for the book.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, more than invited. Yes, yes, yes. And this is pretty much this. Just wanted to appreciate you all for being here today. Unfortunately, we needed to be closing the session right now, unfortunately, but I hope, Dicky, you can be here in the next sessions as well. We're going to have one now mid-December, and I'm going to update you all. I'm so sorry about the time confusion because we deal with so many time zones, and I don't know if it's summertime somewhere, if it's winter time somewhere, if it's GMT, if it's not GMT, if it's Irish time. I don't know. So it's like I need an app. I need a cell phone app to tell me all the time zones, and it's pretty. But anyways, we worked. We worked.
Yes.
Okay, very quickly, the Google has an app that may help you do that. Google Calendar will tell you globally if you put all the time zones you have to work in and you're scheduling something on the calendar. And I totally like understand. You know, yesterday in US was Thanksgiving holiday, which as you know is a really bizarre holiday. But
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
everybody was surprised that today I have a presentation because they're like, it's Thanksgiving. And I was like, you know, US is not the only place in the world.
It's
4th of
true.
July is not everywhere.
Yeah. But thank you so much. I want to think more about who is this imagined other. I totally agree. I also think there is, when you talk about distress and labor, there's also this kind of, which again is considered inauthentic in these cultures, is that distressed itself is commodified. So,
Yes.
like labor, people who do labor, like carpenter jeans, is in fashion. When these people who wear carpenter jeans are never going to be carpenters, right? So,
Yes.
like, it's really like painter jeans, things like that. So, thank you so much. And for my dad and your dad, probably will feel very similar about a lot of this. And lastly, I just want to add is yes, on narratives and aesthetic, but one thing a lot of critique I notice of this kind of cultural sociology is that people say this is not sociology. Now you're doing interpretation and this is literature. And I think that's a really big mistake. Why is text worth, you know, studying and not material culture and aesthetics? Because I think aesthetics can also be hermeneutically read, right? That's why I also talk about ethnography. And rather than just saying this is what the data is, I actually try to show the world from their perspective. And that's why I think research methods and qualitative work is really important as well. Anyway, I will leave it here. Thank you so much. And I will get in touch with you for the
Brilliant.
book chapter. I'm very interested.
Please, please
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'll be in touch. We can talk more. Thank you so much.
Very
Yeah.
good. Thank you, everyone. Everyone wants to say any final words?
Yeah,
Actually,
thank you for the good presentation and just write so we can keep in contact with that. Sorry, Lara.
that's okay. The only thing that I would like to add in terms of Marx differentiation, in the human condition, Arendt differentiate between labor, work, and action, that we do not have such a thing in Marx, approach. So I think this you
Yeah.
might.
Yeah, and she talks about how, I mean, Aran has a really great observation about, and this is also comes back to repair, is back in the days, we used to come together to do things, right? The
Yeah,
activity, but we no
Yes.
longer do. And now the things outlast us
Yes.
rather than the things we do. So, but yes, it's a very sad outlook on the world. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, everyone.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
All the
Bye.
best.
can you hold on? Can you hold on, Umberto?
Yes.
And maybe also Andrew? Okay,
Under 3 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
good. Just wanted to say we have
Very quickly,
two
because I need
things we
to
have.
teach in 40 minutes and I need to go to lunch.
Okay, just on the on our homepage, Talking Alienation, we have the Rabat schedule, which is not any longer the Rabat
Yes,
schedule.
yes. I'm
Was
going to
changed.
update it to the new
May-
one.
Yeah, or maybe just let it finish, and then when we have talked about it and informed the people who
Brilliant.
are, then we bring it out. publish it. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I think that it was for the first, and then we get in touch also within the next week,
Of
2 weeks,
course.
whatever,
Of
with
course.
respect to
Or we can
the
change
book. Yeah.
emails
Yeah.
because of the document, the project, the book project. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you all. You rock
Thank
my
you.
world.
All right.
Greetings. Give our regards to Vessela.
Okay.
You do.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.